This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman. This is the moment the 78-metre or 256-foot yacht Venus crashes into the 105-metre or 344-foot port quarter of the super yacht Lady Mara.
Hey! 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 No.
People on board Lady Mara can be heard shouting and talking in Spanish, some translations which I'm not going to give, but they can be heard shouting to try to alert the other vessel of the impending impact. Although the video footage has seemingly just been released, the incident actually took place on the 22nd of July of this year off the coast of Naples in Italy. So what can we see? We've seen the video now and we're going to break it down and try to explain what's happening and what state both vessels are in terms of what's going on board. It appears from the video that both vessels are at anchor. So we can see on Motor Yacht Venus, the vessel approaching the vessel with the person shouting. There's a black ball on the very front. That is a sign that the anchor of the vessel is down, that the vessel is at anchor. We can also see the anchor chain coming from the anchor pocket on the port side of the vessel or the right-hand side as we look at the vessel. And we can see that the tender garage door is open on the port side, port quarter towards the stern of the vessel. You can just see the edge of it. We can also see that the radar antennas are not turning or spinning, which to me suggests there's nobody on the bridge of Venus. And we can see that as far as the time of day goes, it appears to be either at sunrise or sunset. Now the people shouting on the port quarter of the yacht, that's the left-hand side as you look forward and near to the stern of the rear of the vessel or the rear of the vessel. So just after impact, we can hear and see the wash from Lady Mara's propellers as she starts to move forward and away from that other vessel. Now Venus looks to be in laid up state. You can see canvas covers on the furniture, which suggests no guests on board. Now the other vessel, Lady Mara, they appear to be guests just based on the way they're dressed. They're not in uniform, so they're either crew in their own clothes hanging out on the aft deck of that yacht, which is very unlikely, or they're guests. So what's happened? Now, it would appear by the video and by information that we've gathered since viewing the video that Motor Yacht Venus was blown into Lady Mara by strong winds. It would appear that the vessels were anchored too close to each other, not observing or correctly measuring the swinging circles for each vessel. What is a swinging circle? We'll come back to that shortly. We can also observe that the anchor chain on Venus is not loose, which may indicate that the vessel has lost an anchor if the chain is loose, which can happen in high winds. In fact, I was on a yacht where we lost our anchor and we were going astern about 14 knots without engines. Nobody on the bridge at the time of happening. We all had to rush into action to get the engine started and to get the vessel underway, to get under control. It was purely luck that we didn't hit anything else. Now, it appears to be not dragging that anchor. Obviously, I can't confirm that based on that short video clip, but that's what I would say. If it was dragging going forwards, then the anchor chain would be pointing towards the stern of the vessel, wouldn't it? Probably dragging down the hull, not going seemingly straight down. Anchor dragging, self-explanatory. The anchor is on the seabed and the vessel is being pushed by the winds so much that it starts to drag the anchor along the seabed. So what's happening on board? Obviously this is speculation now, but it's based on 20 years of experience. It's very easy to look at the video and come to a lot of conclusions about what should have been done and what shouldn't have been done, etc., etc. Remember, these are not cars. You can't jump in and turn the key and drive off in seconds. It takes time to prepare the vessel. Now, both vessels being at anchor means that the engines are shut down and they're just swinging off their anchors, right? It seems from the video they may not have been anybody on the bridge of Multi-Yacht Venus, at least when the incident started. Whilst on Lady Mara, the vessel shortly after impact starts to move forward. So obviously there's someone on the bridge at that time. Now in the time the bridge was alerted to the impending collision, the bridge officers and the engineers would have been starting engines, preparing to move. It just takes time to get that vessel ready to do so. And unfortunately, in this particular instance, the time it took was too long to avoid the impact. Now, even after the impact, Venus doesn't appear to try to make any evasive moves. There's no prop wash or any signs of life on board, signaling that there was probably nobody on the bridge. So what would happen on board in this situation? Now, like I said, once the crew become aware of an impending accident, the officer of the watch, who should be on the bridge, and if not, he would run to the bridge, would call the engineers and tell them he needs engines. The engineers, if not already in the engine room, which is probably unlikely in this incident, would have to run down there and get those engines started, and starting all the pumps and everything. It takes time to do that. And then they call the bridge and tell them you have engines. At this point, the officer of the watch or captain or whoever's on the bridge can start to move the vessel out of the way. As you can see, that can take time, and the same thing may have been happening on Venus. We don't know at this point. So earlier I mentioned the swinging circle, the anchor swinging circle. When a yacht, or any vessel for that matter, drops anchor, it doesn't stay fixed in one position. The vessel will swing around her anchor point due to external forces like wind, current, tides. We call this the swinging circle. It's not a nightclub. And it simply refers to the area within which a ship is expected to swing whilst at anchor. Now, as long as the vessel doesn't drag her anchor, and as long as the anchor chain doesn't break, the vessel will just move within a predetermined range, which can be measured by the officer of the watch, and it should have been done in both instances. Now, if we go to marine traffic, we can actually switch on a feature called anchor swinging circles to give us an idea of what I'm referring to visually. You can clearly see that the circles do not intersect, therefore the vessels are clear of each other's swinging circles. Obviously, marine traffic's version of this is just based on the data that they're receiving from AIS broadcasts and should not be used to actually calculate your swinging circle if you're on a vessel. And everybody who's a trained maritime professional knows knows what I've just said is correct. This is just clearly for us to be able to view these things to give us an idea of what's going on. If the vessel was broadcasting the wrong length, for instance, the swinging circle would be incorrect. Some vessels don't broadcast their length as well, so it's hard to determine. Now, one other thing that we found from the day of the incident, which was the 22nd of July, as mentioned earlier, is that on that day, there were very strong winds. As you can see in this article here, this is an Italian news article. It says strong winds hit Naples as weather front moves from France. And it says that strong gusts of winds hit Naples on Monday morning. Neapolitans, surprised by the heat of recent weeks, had to deal with the whirlwind that arrived from France, which had already reached Sardinia in the past hours and passed over the Tyrrhenian Sea. So you can see there was an unexpected, very strong weather front coming in. Okay, so the owners of the vessels, Multi-Yacht Venus, in some of the reporting I've seen, they said that it was owned by Steve Jobs. However, Steve Jobs did commission and pay for the yacht, and it was built by Fedship. Unfortunately, Steve Jobs passed away before the vessel was completed, and he never got to go on the vessel, at least to sail on the vessel. He never took delivery. The vessel is now owned by his wife. And Lady Mara is now owned by the Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego. He owns a chain of electrical shops in Mexico and also in other places in South America, for instance. Now, interestingly, on his Instagram, he said He actually turned it into an advert and he said, please go to my stores and buy lots of Apple products so they can pay for the repairs to my yacht, which I thought was quite funny. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that's helped you understand what was happening in the video. It's very easy to look, especially to the uninitiated, to look at that and see the wrong thing. So yeah, I hope it helped. Let me know in the comments. If you've got any more specific information, please let us know. You can get us at news@esysman.co.uk. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for future notifications. All right, guys, thanks. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.